Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Two Playing Sports. Today is Wednesday, April 19th, and we're another couple days closer to the spring game this weekend. Unfortunately, none of us will be in attendance, but we are jealous of the 10 people that ended up winning tickets. So appreciate everyone entering in that on Twitter, and hope you guys enjoy your game. I know last year was a lot of fun when Brandon and I went down for that one. So it was a good time, and hopefully some players look pretty good. So we'll be talking a little bit about the spring game format. They came out with a scoring system for offense and defense, and it seems like a pretty interesting way that they're doing it. So we're going to talk about that. OU picked up a commitment from KJ Daniels, and their third commitment in the 24K class. So some positive momentum there. OU made a top 8 for a top 250 player in Braden Platt and a linebacker, and then also some crystal balls have been rolling in favor of OU for Bryant Wesco and Isaiah Autry, which I think we did a video like last week, and I wasn't really truly a believer that Isaiah Autry was going to potentially be at Oklahoma just because he released a top 5 and it didn't seem like OU was in a great spot, but man, something has changed. So we got some thoughts on that. So let's start getting into it. Let's talk spring game. That's obviously probably the most pressing topic that we've got, and OU ended up releasing Tuesday the scoring format. So my initial thought, and I'm pulling it up right now, what I found interesting is on offense, when you punt you get 2 points, and then the defense, when you punt, they get 5 points. It's interesting that they're giving points to the offense, and I guess it's a net -3. Why are they doing that? Why wouldn't you just give 0 points to the offense and 3 points to the defense? Am I overthinking this? Brandon, what do you think?
No, I thought the same thing. It's weird that the offense scores for punts, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's not a big. It's weird, but it is what it is, I guess.
It is.
The entire scoring format seems like it's just probably how they do practice and like positive and negatives for each side of the ball. It'll be interesting to see how easily it's going to be tracked, because I'm pretty sure it's airing on ESPN Plus if I remember correctly. So, and that's how I'm going to be watching it. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep track of anything very well.
So you'll just have to have the tweet pulled up the whole time while you're watching it.
Just have a cheat sheet next to me so I can figure out what the hell's happening. But we'll see. The punt thing is weird. The
field goal thing was interesting as hell too, I think, because if the offense makes a field goal, it's +1 for the defense essentially, because the offense will score the 3 points for the field goal, but the defense gets 4 points for a made field goal. So, which I think is interesting, but I mean, it shows you that, you know, the staff is prioritizing holding teams out of the end zone, because at the end of the day, if you force teams to kick field goals instead of score touchdowns, you're more likely to win the game. You know, if you hold somebody to 6 field goals or even 7 field goals, that's 21 points. But you know that 3 touchdowns and 1 field goal on your own, you win that game. So I mean, I think it's interesting, but I kind of like it, and it just keep teams out of the end zone, and you'll get rewarded. If only we're like that in real games. You know, if you hold a team in a real life game to a field goal and you get 1 point on defense, that would be neat. And it also would not be neat when OU's kicking. So
yeah, that is really interesting. I didn't even notice that, but you're right. So if you settle for a field goal, either way, the offense is losing, because if you miss it, the defense gets a couple points. If you make it, you're net negative. So you never should kick it.
If there's 1 second on the clock, and the OU and the offense has the offense is lining up for a 35-yard field goal, and they drill it, they're going to lose the game by 1 instead of go to overtime.
They still lose.
I think they're trying to give the defense, like, it seems like they're kind of at an advantage of winning this game, because they get points for pretty much any statistic that they put up. They get points for a pass breakup, a sack. I'm surprised there's not one for a tackle for loss. That seems like one that would be in there, given that they have pass breakup and sack. Maybe they're just trying to make it look like a competitive game throughout the day.
Do you think it has to deal with that they're trying to build up their confidence? It felt like at times last year Brandon, I know you didn't watch all last season, but from what I saw, it seemed like the defense really struggled with confidence. Is this a way? Yes, they're probably trying to make it a little bit more of a competitive game throughout the whole spring game. But is this a way that the OU is trying to instill some confidence in this defense? Because that's half the battle, I think.
Oh, maybe it's interesting. The scoring definitely favors the defense. Like field goals again. Like if you're the OU offense, obviously they're going to kick field goals because it doesn't really matter ultimately who wins or loses this game. But they might as well not kick anything at all because if they miss a field goal, they get 0 points, but the defense will get 7 points for a missed field goal. So like, we should just never. I mean, the offense should never kick in the spring game.
But here's actually the deal. Now I'm thinking about it. If you go for it on 4th down and don't kick it, but you get stopped, the defense gets 7 points. So you're almost better off if you're leading by 6. You need to either make or miss the field goal. It does not matter. You just can't go for it on 4th down because if you don't get it, you're giving up 7 points. So the offense literally is a no-win in that situation. You are giving up points no matter what, unless you convert.
Yep. Did they do this format or offense defense last year, or was it just they had offensive and defensive units on each side of on each red and white team?
I want to say that they had offense and defense for red and white.
Interesting.
I wanted to say
maybe it is a confidence booster thing because there is like you said, if it's like late game and maybe the guys get some sort of reward for winning, like the winning team gets some, like maybe they get to go to miss a workout or arrive 30 minutes late to next morning workout. Fuck it, might as well just go for a 70-yard field goal just because it's not going to penalize you as much as missing a 4th down.
If only Sugars was still a thing and the winning team would get like $100 to each member of the winning team gets $100 to Sugars. I promise you the boys would be trying then.
Oklahoma Spring Football sponsored by Sugars.
I wish this podcast could be sponsored by Sugars.
Yeah. Or like if you got a 45-yard field goal potentially, but you only need, you need to burn some clock, you might as well just, punt it and not miss it potentially because you then only give up 5 points rather than 7. You could really get interesting with this whole concept of going for it and messing around with it.
It's going to be a fun game.
That's probably not the intent, but
yeah. Also, go ahead.
They probably won't take advantage of the scoring system like we're proposing because obviously it's not a game that actually matters. They're just trying to get some practice in front of a crowd. But if there is some sort of incentive at the end for a winning team, I bet the boys are going to be like, "Hey, Coach B, let's just avoid any 4th down plays. Let's just take ridiculously long field goals every time."
All right, so hold on. With the drives in the spring game, like I assume Dylan Gabriel won't play very much, or he'll get a couple drives. Then it'll be Davis Bevel time. So or Jackson Arnold, whatever. We'll quickly segue into something that I think it was Sooner Thrawn commented, and it made me chuckle when I was reading the comments from the last video. And obviously I didn't get to watch Davis Bevel this year, but you guys did. Did you see? Because last time we had the debate on the Stetson Bennett on TCU and Max Duggan on Georgia, whatever. Sooner Thrawn said that Davis Bevel is so bad that if he played for Georgia, they still wouldn't win 3 games. which is gold. Is he that bad? There's no way he's that bad that they wouldn't win 3 games on Georgia.
I can guarantee you that if you go on YouTube, once we're done here, there's going to be a Texas channel that probably has the entire OU Texas game last year because they destroyed us, and you will see how bad he was. He was just a warm body out there. You could have been Davis Bevel and done just as much.
In his defense, I don't think he was put in a position to succeed.
Nah, fuck that. He sucks.
I mean,
but does he win 3 games on Georgia?
Yes. Yes.
Brum says yes. Ho says no.
Braden Willis.
That's going to be Sooner Thrawn. You created the end of video challenge for this one. We're gonna use that as the end of video challenge. Does Davis Bevel win 3 games as the starting quarterback for Georgia?
They had to score points.
Would love to see the comment section here.
Score points. You can't win a game 0-0.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the debate. And Brum said yes, he would win 3 games. You said no. I am indifferent because I didn't get to watch. Or I don't have a vote in this. Loser has to shotgun a beer on the next podcast. That's what I say. Do you guys agree to those terms?
That's okay. I already owe you one.
Yeah, that's fine. I think he would win 4. I think he'd win 4. I mean, they play like the Citadel and like, a few cupcakes.
Yeah, I mean, the defense alone can beat the Citadel. He can score 0 points. The defense will score enough points to beat the Citadel.
Exactly.
And then, really Vandy, they can probably beat Vandy with just the defense.
Yeah.
Like, there's some wins out there.
Yeah, I 100% think that they would win. They wouldn't have a winning record. I don't think so, but they would win more than 3.
I hope Davis Bell doesn't watch this program ever.
Yeah, I feel bad every time I shout on him, but it's just true. Like, all you had to do was watch that game last year. What is interesting is I saw a video earlier, and Davis was running with the 2s in today's practice, or yesterday's practice, which was interesting. And I hope that it's just a practice thing and not a real life thing, because that will be frustrating if we go into the fall and he's still QB2.
I mean, if he's that bad and he's still QB2, what does that say about Jackson Arnold? I mean, is that any indictment on him, or is that just the staff just so afraid to, burn a red shirt, or they don't want him to play at all year 1?
I think it's an indictment on the staff, because that would be 2 freshman quarterback that you put Davis Bevel over.
I don't think that has any indication of what this fall will look like on the depth chart, in my opinion.
I agree. I'm just saying, if we go into the fall and Buddy's still practicing with the 2s, then that's definitely going to show what they perceive the depth chart to be.
Yeah. I mean, all I got to say is I don't think Davis was, in his defense, was put in the best position to succeed. And not that it probably would have ended any different, but I think it could have been a little bit more competitive. But anyway, we can stop talking about that, and let's get back on track here, and let's talk about this spring game. But it's an interesting format. It really incentivizes the defense to at least perform and be competitive. I think this is a way that they instill confidence in this defense, and it presents some interesting dynamics as far as scoring and decisions that Coach B and Coach Bates will have to make throughout the game, whether to go for it, not go for it, punt, miss field goal, things like that. But let's talk about another thing. Do you guys have any more thoughts on the spring game, or can we? All right. So OU picked up their 3rd commitment in Kelly Daniels, or KJ Daniels. He's out of the state of Louisiana. Franklinton, to be exact, 5'10", 150-pound wide receiver. Really, a couple crystal balls came in from Parker Thune and Brandon Drum, and then later in the evening, what was it? Was it Monday evening? Daniels came out on Hayes Fawcett's Twitter and Instagram that he's committed to Oklahoma. A guy that can absolutely fly. He's known for his speed. Emmett Jones definitely seemed to have been pushing for him. The interesting thing, I think, here, one is he doesn't hold a ton of Power 5 offers, and some people have been critical of that. I think this is someone that OU's probably identified as more of a diamond in the rough, someone that could probably rise in the rankings a little bit. He doesn't hold an LSU offer. I do think it would be interesting if LSU does eventually offer. And the other component of this is I do wonder if this has an impact on Isaiah McMorris out of Nebraska. When you look at where OU's at with a lot of other receivers, when you think of like a Bryant Wesco, which we'll talk about him a little bit later, that 5-star, you look at Zion Kearney, OU's in a pretty good spot. They've picked up KJ Daniels now at this point. Are they going to take 3? Are they going to take 4 wide receivers? I do think that KJ probably realized that if I want to be a Sooner, I better pull the trigger and hop on the train now because spots will fill up. I know some people were probably a little disappointed because he's a 3-star, and then 247 doesn't have him rated as anything. And people, love the stars, and I sometimes get caught up in it too. Jose, what do you think about KJ? He can absolutely fly. What do you think?
He's very fast. On the Isaiah McMorris thing, it definitely affected that recruitment. Parker Thune flipped his crystal ball Monday after the commitment from Oklahoma to USC. And then on Tuesday morning, a Kansas State insider put in a crystal ball for Isaiah to be a Trojan. So kind of showed that there was really one expected open spot, and the expectations that the other two, if three are taken, is Zion Kearney and Bryant Wesco, which we'll talk about one of those guys a little bit later. But he's fast. The biggest criticism that I would have isn't really even related to the rating on any recruiting platform. It's just the size. He is very small. Stature, he's 5'10", so kind of an average height, but 150 pounds. He's going to have to be. He will if he comes into school, let's just say around 160. There's very little chance I could see him play as a freshman, potentially even as a sophomore, because he would have to be eating all of the cake pops at every Starbucks in the Norman area. He would be drinking all the frappuccinos and then having to hit the gym every single day so he could put on another 10 pounds and realistically not put himself in danger, because if being that small, one big hit, especially in the SEC, you're going to be going up against much bigger defenders, could hurt a lot more than you're probably used to from the high school level to college. And even if he is fast, you'd still want to get some muscle on him so that you can have him be able to sustain his endurance and his speed throughout the year and not burn out after 9 games.
I agree with you. I think he's going to have to work a lot if he's going to play. At any time during his OU career, I think. But there's potential there, and the coaching staff obviously likes what he can do. He's, like you guys mentioned, the speedster thing, but Hollywood Brown could not have been much bigger than 150. Probably at the same point in his high school football career, because I think he couldn't have been much over 160 by the time he got to Oklahoma. He obviously panned out. He did the work. He got bigger. Whatever needed to do. He was a speedster too. Hollywood worked out. I'm not saying KJ Daniels is going to be Hollywood, but it shows that sometimes the smaller guys can do it. Maybe he can work his way onto the field as a punt returner or as some gadget play type stuff like Gavin Freeman did last year. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for him to see the field, especially as a freshman. But the more competition, the better. It's good to get a commitment again. There's 3 deep now. Let's hope it takes off now.
Kind of reminds me real quickly of Anthony Evans when Oklahoma first started recruiting him. I know he's not part of the team and he didn't sign, but similar. Wasn't really. I don't believe he was rated on some platforms. Might have been a 3-star on a couple when Oklahoma started recruiting him, and it was mainly due to his speed. And then eventually he started getting those 3 and 4-star ratings later on.
Yeah, KJ is only a 3-star on Rivals. He's on ESPN 24/7 and on 3. He's not ranked at all, but that doesn't mean much. And I bet he'll pick some stars up from the other sites as he gets closer to graduating high school.
He will, and I do wonder and we don't know, is it the fact that OU started not feeling too good about Isaiah McMorris and they thought he might have been trending towards the Trojans, and that's why they really pressed KJ Daniels, or was it truly between KJ and Isaiah and just say, hey, it's first come first serve, and KJ was just the one that did that? It'd be interesting to know if they felt like they had to press KJ because they thought they were going to lose McMorris, but we don't know. Either way, I'm glad that he's on board with the 24K class. I hope, even if LSU does decide to offer, I hope he honors his commitment and is locked in. I'd like to think he is. So, but let's move on. OU made a top 8 for 2024 4-star linebacker Braden Platt, 6'2", 240 pounds, out of Yelm, Washington. A very talented guy, according to 247, the number 9 linebacker in the class. His top 8 included Miami, Michigan, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, Texas A&M, UCLA, and USC. It seems like he enjoyed his Oklahoma visit. I think he's been on campus once or twice now. I want to say 2 times, if I'm remembering correctly. but OU is up there contending. I know it's 8, but it's better than 12 or 15. Seems like Oklahoma's really in this. It doesn't seem like distance is going to be a factor for him because when you look at that top 8, Miami's literally on the other side of the country, the furthest spot away. Michigan, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, A&M, kind of central, southern U.S., and then you got the West Coast teams, which you would expect with a kid out of Washington. So, Brent Venables seems to be taking basically a big role with him and Ted Roof in this recruitment. Platt plays both linebacker and running back. We've talked about him a couple times on this podcast. An extremely talented guy, and if I'm remembering correctly, he does powerlifting. Is that correct, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on him? We got to feel good. Top 8. I would hope to see him schedule an official here with Oklahoma relatively soon.
Yeah, like you said, it's single digits at least. It's better than top 10 and beyond, which we've seemed to be in a lot of those. But Braden Platt's a very talented kid. He's a kid that I think will eventually see the field. He's going to have some competition if he does commit to Oklahoma, obviously at that linebacker spot. But I think when Danny Stutz is gone, there's obviously a spot opened up for somebody, whether that be Kobe McKenzie or whatever. There's going to be a spot opening up, and he's a guy that can play. He's all over the field. He plays offense, defense, runs track, power lifts. He's a very, very athletic kid. He would be a huge addition to the Oklahoma defense down the road. A guy that, with that many skills in his toolbox, and Brent Venables being a linebacker, decide you're a linebacker guy, a guy that can really teach the linebackers what to do. I think that's a match made in heaven. I would love to see it happen. Braden Platt is a guy that I think would be very impactful at some time in his senior career if he does end up making the decision, and I hope it happens.
Agreed. And I would actually, I guess different from you guys, I would say a top 8 is kind of the new top 5, with the players being able to take as many official visits as they'd like at this point. Top 10, I would so agree, not as serious, but top 8, you're really getting into the part where the school and the player has to be seriously involved in getting that official scheduled and wanting to be part of the class wherever the player would end up picking. Braden, like you guys said, extremely talented. I kind of like where, if you just look at the schools versus and the staffs versus what they put out defensively, I like where OU is, if that's something that he's really taking into account. You've got maybe a couple of schools, or you could say, yeah, they produce better defenses and linebackers than Brent Venables on occasion, but if you're just looking at his top 8 overall, OU should be in a spot where they could be in the running here in the long haul and potentially land his commitment. This is still pretty early. Wouldn't expect him to make a decision even before his senior football season starts. But if OU can get a scheduled official with him, and maybe unofficially back one more time before the beginning of his senior year, you would definitely like where OU sits there.
Definitely. So, I hope he comes back for the Champion Barbecue or the Party in the Palace. I would imagine he would, if he does intend to come back to Oklahoma. I would imagine one of those 2 weekends will be the official weekend that he does take. It seems like the visit went really well from when he came on campus. I believe it was April 4th, that first weekend in April he came by. So some good stuff there. Before we get into the last section of the video, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. So let's talk the last part. OU seems to be trending well for a couple 2024 guys. We're hoping some momentum is being started with Hawkins joining, Daniels being a part of it. We got the spring game, a lot of good visitors coming up. Let's talk about Isaiah Autry. Initially, as I said earlier in the video, I didn't really feel like Oklahoma was truly a viable option, even though we were in the top 5. I always thought, being from Tupelo, Mississippi, naturally you would think Ole Miss or an Alabama would be the spot, or even Auburn. But since then, Oklahoma has been trending. They've got 5 crystal balls in favor of them on 247. And Steve Wiltfong, Parker Thune, Brandon Drum, a Florida State insider, an Ole Miss insider, all have crystal Autry to Oklahoma within the last 24, 36 hours, give or take, as we're recording this video. The top 5 that he put out earlier this week: Alabama, Auburn, Florida State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. And with that, it looks like that the, Oklahoma, from what I've read and gathered, it seems like that the reason why Oklahoma's trending is because of the field and the major that Oklahoma offers, as far as it might be better or is the only school that does offer that. I don't really know what the major is, but it seems like that's an advantage to Oklahoma and something that only Oklahoma can offer. I believe he's coming up for the spring game, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure. Jose, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the spring game either. I'll have to go check out all the social media. I should have done that before we started recording. But yeah, I mean, we were both on the same boat when we first started talking about Isaiah. He is a large human being. Obviously, it would be great to have someone of his size on campus, 6'6", 280 right now, according to his 247 profile. So kind of would come in almost in a position where he would be physically closer to ready to play. The coaches would need to evaluate his technique and kind of where he fits, depth, all that jazz. But yeah, Isaiah is clearly trending in the right direction. It wouldn't surprise me if he's the next guy to commit. I mean, I would assume that we're gonna get maybe one more guy before the end of April. I would hope so. Like, all these crystal balls are coming in. Isaiah got a ton here over the last couple days, and I think one of them was as high as like 8 or 9 confidence by one of the insiders. Yeah, the Ole Miss insider has it as a 9 confidence. So he must know something like this kid's already silently committed, not really taking the other schools into account anymore, and Oklahoma's pretty much locked it in. That's kind of what a 9 confidence seems to me. I could be wrong, but no, you don't really see people go over 7 or really over 6 very often. 7 practically a lock. 9 is this kid's already committed. It's just a matter of when he says something.
I think this is the Bill Bedenbaugh effect. I mean, I've said it multiple times on the show, but I mean, obviously I'm very biased to Oklahoma, but like putting that aside, I think if you're an offensive lineman and you're really good, there really is no better coach to play for than Coach Bedenbaugh, I think. I mean, that Miles M Creations, that graphic he put out that shows how much money that the linemen have made coming out of OU. The people he puts in the draft, he clearly knows how to develop and build an offensive lineman's game. And a dude that's 6'6", 280, like you mentioned, and as athletic as he is, dude, I'd be licking my chops to play for Coach Bedenbaugh. I think you'd have the sky's the limit as far as your football career goes. If you really go to OU and you listen to what he has to say and you just soak it all up, you'd be a sponge to what he's saying. I think you can do a lot. And for the team, I mean, that's a huge, that would be a huge get, 6'6", 280 and a dude that moves. And there's really nothing not to love about this, the way this is trending. And if he were to become a Sooner, because I think that would make, it would significantly improve the offensive line down the road. I love it. I hope he commits. There's nothing not to like there.
There definitely isn't. And with him, I saw on his Twitter, he also retweeted like a crystal ball in favor of Oklahoma about himself. So obviously there's some substance there that he must agree with that. So another guy that Oklahoma's got another crystal ball is 2024 5-star wide receiver Bryant Wesco. 247 already has 3 in, but I believe this one was either off Rivals or on 3. I can't remember, but Jose, do you know which one?
It was on
which
3,
site?
same speed.
On 3. Yeah. So another guy crystal balled him to Oklahoma. With his sister being on the soccer team, Emmett Jones pressing him. It seems like Oklahoma's in a fantastic spot for Bryant Wesco, a guy that probably will be a part of this 24K class, especially since we got the quarterback lined up. Jose, what do you think about Wesco? I mean, we've talked about him a lot. I feel like his commitment could be sometime soon.
Yeah, we know about the player. We've known about him for a while now. I think when OU first started recruiting him, he wasn't really highly ranked. Now he's one of the top 10 best players in this class. I'm looking at this correctly. Yeah. So, dude is clearly making huge leaps in his game. He's improving. He's doing what he needs to do to be prepared once he does get on a college field. I mean, it really is just. It seems like a matter of time. It's hard. Sometimes it's tough to feel this confident about something, especially in recruiting, because you know it can flip at any second. Something could change where maybe he wants to go to Clemson because that would seem like the program that would most resemble Oklahoma for whatever reason. I just don't see it really changing anytime soon, especially if he were to commit, maybe sometime next week after the spring game.
Yeah, I mean, like last time we talked about it, I said that it doesn't hurt that his sister's on campus, and I mean, it doesn't. At the end of the day, having anybody, hopefully him and his sister are really close. That would help OU's cause because as a player, when we talked about it, the dude averaged about 20 yards a catch last season, and he had 17 touchdowns on 58 receptions. So almost a third of his catches went for touchdowns, just a little under. I mean, that's ridiculous stuff. I think he's a guy that, I'm very high on Jaquez Petaway. I think Jaquez Petaway has an opportunity this season to see the field at the receiver room, somewhere down the road. I think Bryant Wesco has that same capability. If he does end up committing to Oklahoma, I think by the time he gets to campus, Drake Stoops will be gone. Jalil Farouk could potentially be gone. I think there's a legitimate chance that Bryant Wesco could be a day one guy. He's that kind of player. So hopefully it works out for OU. We're picking up a bunch of crystal balls, so hopefully he just pulls the trigger soon enough, and that would be a huge get.
Absolute massive gift. A gift for sure. So can't complain. Obviously, Emmett Jones picked up his first commitment since being the wide receiver coach for Oklahoma. One note, I think, Jose, you mentioned right before we started it, but 2023 four-star, or is it 2023 or 2022? 2022 four-star wide receiver Jordan Hudson from TCU entered into the transfer portal, once committed to OU, flipped to SMU, and then at the last second followed Sonny Dykes and went to TCU. You also mentioned that Rashad Samples is gone as main recruiter and made the move from SMU to TCU, and now he's at ASU, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure where Oklahoma would be in this recruitment or if the staff's even looking at him, but it seems like Oklahoma might at least consider it, considering that there was some buzz about the player from Texas, Brennan Thompson. So they're obviously evaluating wide receiver talent. Do you have any thoughts, either one of you?
I don't think it happens.
Yeah, it seems like a reach, but I mean, he was interested in being a Sooner at one point. I don't know if it was because of the staff. Then, if that's the case, then probably see him go out west. I would assume that he also just follows, Rashad Samples, the guy that recruited him to SMU and TCU, and just goes to Arizona State, which would really help Arizona State because they are in need of more talent. But
did y'all know Chad Johnson's son plays for Arizona State?
Yep. I don't know if he's any good, though.
I don't know if he's any good either, but he's Chad Johnson's son. It's kind of cool.
That is true. And then, I mean, we should also, I guess, mention Jaden Davis and Corey Roberson entering the portal from Oklahoma.
Yeah, you're right.
Corey, I'm not trying to be an ass, but I don't think that's really a huge loss, even with the lack of depth in the interior of the offensive line. And Jaden Davis, everyone has mixed feelings. I think as a fan base, there's probably a bit of a mixed feelings, but as long as he finds a place where he thinks he can be better, good for him.
Wish them both the best.
Definitely wish them both the best. So, anyway, you guys know Brandon's Indie Video Challenge. If you have forgotten, you want to remind them, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, and remember, loser has to shotgun a beer. So really put in your input here, guys, because and again, I'm stealing it from Sooner Thrawn. I thought it was funny, and so I wanted to use it. But yeah, so Davis Bevel, starting quarterback for Georgia. Do they win 3 or more games? Jose says no. Brum says yes. I didn't get to watch him play, but I'm gonna pick yes too because there's no way he can be that bad on that team was so loaded, dude. I think it's actually impossible they don't win 3 games. Because, I mean, like Brum mentioned, dude, you got the Citadel, you got Vandy, and then you just got to find one more somewhere. I feel like they find it.
They didn't play the Citadel. You can't just give them cupcake games. You gave them
They
Citadel
always play the cup. Every team plays a cupcake at some point in the season. That's part of your season.
Okay.
Yeah,
I still don't think it happens.
Like this year, their schedule is Tennessee, Martin, Ball State, and then they've got a late one, UAB. You're telling
there it
me
is. There's 3 games right there.
You're
The defense in itself can win.
Yeah, you're telling me they can't win those 3?
Not thanks to Davis Bevel. No.
And then Georgia Tech.
No.
Those are 4 W's right there.
Because you are aware that the offense needs to move the ball and score points.
No, not when your defense doesn't give up any points and they score touchdowns for you.
That's not how it works.
Battle of field position to win those contests.
Yeah, I think they win through.
I mean, I think they lose to Alabama by 30 plus. They lose to Tennessee by 30 plus. South Carolina by 30 plus.
All of the SEC.
Yeah, well, not Vandy, maybe.
Maybe not Vandy, and they would
Give me
clean
Vandy in that bout.
They have to win at least 3 games.
They would beat Tennessee, Martin, Ball State, and UAB, and Georgia.
He has to be bad. I mean, a viewer commented about him not winning 3 games, so like he has to be pretty bad.
3 or more, or more than 3? I'd like to clarify that real quick.
3 or more. Okay. So 3 wins.
3 works.
If he wins 3 games, you would lose the bet.
I'm sticking to my guns. I just want to make sure that was clear.
I wish there was like a little machine that we could do to simulate this, like you know what I mean? Like if we were Magic
23,
if we were magicians, I don't know, if we were wizards and we can like somehow make this happen, I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Again, not to be an ass to Davis Bevel, but he was bad.
Yeah, hopefully Davis Bevel does not watch this program.
I guarantee you he probably does not. And if he did, he's probably unsubscribing right about now.
Not a big Hose fan.
But, all right, we made it this far. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's in the description below. And we will catch you guys on Friday.